Hey guys, welcome to Wrestling Daze and welcome to this very different video. We did a poll. Actually, let's go up to it. We did a poll and the question was, should the Fiend return or be left in the past? So should the Fiend return? Yes, 45%. No, leave him in the past. 49%, right? Other, about 7%. So we have got a real split opinion here, and I knew that we would. I even said here, this is one that seems to really divide opinion, because I've spoke to a few people about this, and they've said yes and no, and I've had different conversations, different things being said by different people. And, you know, this is a sensitive subject because I think The Fiend means a lot to a lot of people, and we know that was a character that was played by Bray, and obviously Bray passing away so young. So it's definitely one that's a bit sensitive, but I think it's such an interesting topic. I think it's such an interesting question. So let's get into it. I did put other as well. I just put other because I thought, well, maybe you want The Fiend to appear, but you don't want him to wrestle. Maybe you want The Fiend to appear, but you just want it to be in vignettes and backstage or something like that. I think there is a bit of room for grey area, so very interested to see what people have got to say. So here's Ratchet. Ratchet said Bray was very clear in his interview with Ryan Satin that The Fiend died at WrestleMania 37. Just like the Hawaiian shirt Bray was done, so is The Fiend's. No one else should even try. Respect his wishes. Bray was The Fiend and The Fiend was Bray. So I think many of you are going to know what I'm going to say to this. This interview was not an honest interview. It was actually Bray in character. We know this a couple of ways. So one of the ways we know is that clearly The Fiend wasn't done because they were working on a new costume, and that new costume was shown in the documentary. So that we were building towards The Fiend. So here when he says The Fiend is done, that's not true. They were working on a new Fiend. The other thing is, I think this is the exact same interview where Bray says that he never watches his matches back. I don't ever watch my matches back. And this interview, I remember it dropping, say the Tuesday, whatever. And then fast forward a few days, it was SmackDown. And what do we get? We get Bray backstage watching his matches. So, and I remember a big conversation at the time being, oh my God, he just lied about never watching his matches back. Does that mean he was lying about The Fiend? And I remember that being a big conversation. If you weren't around at the time of the interview, then, you know, that easy to not know about those things, yeah? So what I would say is this to me was Bray in character, kind of portraying where he was at that point. I'm done with The Fiend and all that kind of stuff. But that's not reality. They were working on bringing The Fiend in. So with that being said, I'm guessing Ratchet will probably still feel the same. I think it's going to be this, like, Bray was The Fiend and The Fiend was Bray. Don't really want to see anyone else playing that role. And that's a perfectly acceptable answer. And that's an answer that a lot of people have given, actually. Like, no one else can be that character. And if someone else plays that character, you're always going to be compared to the Bray version, and it ain't going to go well, is it? Because that was the original. It's hard to see someone coming in doing a better job, but someone could come in and do a different job. They could put their own spin on it, you know? Very much like how we get different, you know, Batmans. We can all name our favorite Batman. And chances are it probably wasn't Adam West, who I believe was the first on the TV show. Everyone comes in, just like the Joker as well, provides their own little spin on things, you know. So, yeah, but that is definitely an attitude that's out there. Bray was The Fiend was Bray. Leave it where it is. Word of Wrestling said The Fiend will have the ability to take over the body of Taylor. As many say, will be one odd, but the spirit and inspiration for all of this is the mind of Bray. That unworn, undebuted Fiend outfit is his way of being immortal, and that was at the end of the documentary. So I don't quite know what Word of Wrestling is saying here. You're saying The Fiend will have the ability. So are you saying it's going to happen? I'm guessing you're saying it's going to happen. He will have the ability to do it. He's going to do it at some point. If I'm reading that right, then so be it. The unworn, undebuted Fiend outfit is his way of being immortal. That was at the end of the documentary. So again, I think what you're saying is that that unworn Fiend outfit can be used now. And that's his way of kind of still being present because it was made for him. The only thing is, though, I don't know if that would fit Bo. I mean, I'm sure you can tailor it, of course, get it to fit him. But, yeah, I wonder if they'll still use that, if they do use the Fiend, or if they just come up with a brand new version, Bo's version, you know? It would feel like Bo would be like a good person for it to be. I think that Braun would be a good person as well, actually, because Braun's really big, so you would still get that size. I think the size is important, you know, because it's really hard to imagine a small, thin Fiend, but like someone like Braun that's big and jacked, he could still kind of bring that aura. That might be missing with someone smaller, you know. Right, Sean said, I think maybe in reference, but not in actual, like, real life. Craig, simple, no Fiends. Specs said, I feel like the Fiend should be used on a very rare occasion. If the story actually needs him, I don't want the Fiend used just for fanfare and or views. Kieran said, I say yes. I think they could use the mask in a way that could give any member of the group certain powers, or another way they could use it would be as a kind of conduit that relays the words of the Red to Howdy. Maybe. I mean, I suppose we're kind of going into a bit of a grey area now, in the sense of I don't know quite what the Fiend was. When he was first introduced, he was introduced as Bray's darkness. It's my darkness, I've learned how to control it, right? That's what he says, I believe, in the actual Funhouse episode. Either the one where the Fiend is finally debuted or like the next one. That was my darkness, I've learned how to control it. Now, obviously, that was 2019. In 2020, I don't know if you heard, we had a pandemic and a load of things closed down. That meant there was no audience, and that meant that we could start to do some stuff that we would never be able to do. You know, Money in the Bank was coming from the WWE headquarters, right? There was no crowd, there was no audience. So we did the ladder matches like on the roof of the old headquarters. We did, you know, cinematic matches. Well, one of the other things that we was doing is, you know, the Fiend was starting to pick up more supernatural tendencies. I don't quite get how that fits with it being Bray's darkness, right? So I think the backstory of the Fiend is definitely a piece that could be done, where you kind of go back through and look at how that kind of evolved, you know? What it means is that I don't quite know what the Fiend is capable of, and I'm not sure too many people know either, because I think it was a little bit of trial and error, and I think it was a little bit of just pushing the envelope a little bit more. I think where it started to where it ended up was quite a journey, shall we say, because he was introduced as Bray's darkness that he's learnt to control. But, you know, I mean, by the time we're getting to WrestleMania 37, he's magically repairing himself after being burnt alive. So again, quite a journey. So it's hard to sit here and go, I just don't know if he can relay the words of Bray. I don't know that the mask or the Fiend is sort of able to do that. Does Bray now live within the Fiend, but then the Fiend is living within, say, Braun? Or, do you know what I mean? Like, it starts to get quite deep, doesn't it? It starts to get quite deep because obviously Bray's in a different place now. He's in a different realm. And you do have to factor that in. Because he's going to be part of the story, but I don't know how they're going to make him part of the story. Like, at the moment, he's part of Nightbirds because we talk about the words of the Red, right? We've got that. I don't know if we go a bit further than that. I don't know if we start having people saying that they've been and spoken to Bray, you know, whilst being in the fun house or something like this, or as you said, you know, does the mask, the Fiend mask, relay Bray's words? It's stuff that we can explore, but got to be very careful with it as well, because obviously we're dealing with very sensitive things here. Bray has very real passed away. You know, he's no longer with us. So it is something that we just need to be a little bit careful of. But I think it's quite a grey area, knowing kind of how the Fiend operates, what the Fiend is capable of. Perhaps the fact it's kind of undefined, we can use to our advantage. So, Kieran, very interesting. Very interesting. Uncle Revel said, I've said it before and I'll say it now. The Fiend is its own character. Obviously, Bray is the best to portray this, but even at some points, he took over Alexa Bliss with actions and yowie wowies. I think the Fiend returning with someone else only enhances him. Logan says yes. Walter said, you asked the question, but it doesn't make sense to say yes or no. We don't know what we're saying yes or no to. Yes, the Fiend should return, or yes, the Fiend should be left in the past. No, yes, the Fiend should return, or no, he should be left in the past. I don't think anyone's struggled with that, have they? I mean, I think people are pretty clear on it. So, yeah. Should the Fiend return? Yes, or be left in the past? So, should the Fiend return, yes or no? So, I think that's all right. I think people have got it. Tribal Chief said, the Fiend was something really unique. It was Bray's dark side. I don't think so they would want to make someone the Fiend, because whoever it will be, it won't be as epic. So I don't think we see the... Got you. So you don't think it'll be as epic. And that's a point we touched on earlier. I think, like, the aura is quite important. Like, you can't really make Johnny Gargano the Fiend, but you probably could go with Braun. I feel like you may be able to go with Bo, but you might have to kind of alter the presentation, because there's no way that you can dress him up like the Fiend and it have that same aura. I feel like you'd have to tailor it to Taylor, right? Because if it gets compared to the big, stocky Bray Fiend that we saw that was jacked and big, I just don't think that a Taylor Fiend is going to have that same aura. So you might have to really mix it up. A new mask, new colors, new costume, make it more, as we said, tailored to Taylor. Brandon said, the Fiend Bray Wyatt, thank you. Caden said, the Fiend is Bray. End of. My favorite character in wrestling. Ended on a downer, but leave it where it belongs. Fair. Kevin said, I think he should return, but properly. Special attraction and well thought out for the fans. And to honor Bray. The Fiend is popular, rather you like the character or not. The Fiend has a very large fan base, and Bray was cooking to bring him back. Let him back in. Missy said it could be hard on JoJo and the kids to see a character that was Wyndham, their dad, return. Bray's family's pain, their needs, their opinions, they should come before us. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, ask them first, obviously. I don't think they will say no, because I've got to think that it's digging up a whole lot of emotions just doing what we're doing. You know, Nightbird is just like White Rabbit. We got Uncle Howdy coming back. Alexa's going to be a part of it. Erick Rowan's coming back. We've already seen like little flashes of the fun house. There's rumors of the puppets being brought to life. I think this whole thing's going to be hard. I think they've got to look at this as a celebration of their dad's work, and I really hope that that is how they're looking at it, rather than looking at it as some sort of, I don't know, difficult, negative, Do you know what I mean? Like, way. I hope they're looking at it as something that's exciting and something that has excited. So, yeah, I agree with Missy. Definitely check it with the family first. But I'd imagine all of this has been. And if it comes to bringing back the Fiends, just kind of run the plans past them, see how they're feeling. Hopefully we're sort of doing that as things are going by anyway. Hopefully they're very much in the loop. Colton said he should be mentioned and used randomly when needed and when it makes sense. Harry said, how to book it, I couldn't predict, but give a storyline for the faction. This picture is from Murph's YT video, basically hinting at a faction forcing the mask on the opponents after they're done with them. I'm going to ask you, Daze, what do you think should happen? Well, I don't mind about the Fiend coming back. I think that the aura is important, and as I said, if you want a Fiend similar to what we had before, I'd be tempted to go with someone like Braun. If you want something that's a bit more personal, but still hits you in the feels, I think Bo Dallas seems like the most logical person to go with. I don't think I'd be making Joe Gacy the Fiend. I don't think I'd be making Erick Rowan the Fiend or Dexter Lumis the Fiend. There's only a few people that I would probably look to. Really, them two. I think Braun and Bo are the two that I would look at. And I think they give you something different. One gives you that big monster, the size, sort of like a super-sized Fiend in a way. And then the other one is giving you something really personal. It's going to be a very different looking Fiend, but I would change the mask and I would change the outfit. So I think the fans love the Fiend. And I think that Bray created a character that the fans love. And I think that if you want to leave it in the past, you can, but I would have no problem with it returning. But obviously, I think everyone's going to be in the same boat. The booking has got to be absolutely bang on. If you're going to do it, you do it sparingly, and you do it, I don't know. I mean, maybe you do it like once, a few, like, a good 6 months in, 12 months in, and then you do it a second time if Bo is going for a championship, like the world championship. And he's been getting beaten down like we saw Cody being beaten down by The Rock. Are you telling me that if you put Bo in that situation where he's being beaten down by The Rock, that you won't freak out if Bo says, I'm going to have to bring someone you've not seen for a long time. I'm going to have to unlock that darkness. And everyone at home will know what he means. Because I'm sure we will have been seeing Howdy on the regular. So him talking about bringing someone we've not seen for a long time, unlocking that extra level of darkness, people are going to freak, man. People will freak if it's going to be like the Fiend, Bo Dallas, going for the World Heavyweight Championship against whoever. I mean, I really wouldn't mind that. But the booking would have to be bang on. Blackie said, I don't think the Fiend should return to the ring anytime soon, but in the future could be featured in promos and mysteries backstage and see how that goes. Yeah, maybe that's a good approach. Bring it back, see how the crowd feel, kind of test the waters. Yeah. Watson said, I don't think they should. As much as I love Bray, I just don't think they've got the Fiend correct. Most of the stuff surrounding the Fiend was negative, like Seth Hell in a Cell, Goldberg, the Randy match. The debut was amazing, but if they can't get it right with Bray, I think they should leave it. That kind of echoes what we just said about make sure you get it right, If the creative's right and it feels good and it feels right and everyone's on boards, then I would say don't worry about pulling that trigger. But it does, clearly there's a lot of resistance to it. Clearly there's a lot of people that aren't totally on board, and their voices have to be heard. Their voices have to be heard because that will be reflected many thousands and thousands and thousands of times across the WWE universe. So I think that's what makes this such an interesting video, is you really get the sense there is that real split out there. The Real Steel said it depends how they do it and how they use the character. Nick Forrest said Wyndham is dead, but I think a tribute to the Fiend will work and would be a nice tribute. Bailey said, I think they should just leave the character in the past, but still bring him up, but only if it involves the Wyatt Six. We Are the Woe Movement said, I think we should see him in vignettes, but that's it. I'm okay with anything, but I know some people might feel certain things would be too far. Brady said the Fiend was Bray's darkness and only Bray's darkness, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a Fiend-S-like character for Alexa Bliss. Well, I suppose, I mean, it's a good point. So I know that it was Bray's darkness. I wonder what happens now that Bray has passed away. I mean, where does that darkness go? I mean, if you think about it, Bo could be very angry at Bray leaving him and leaving this world and leaving his family. He could be very angry that life has dealt them that hand. Not angry at Bray, just angry at life. Like, could he have gained extra darkness in that process? And if he did, could that be explored? And if he's now got all this extra darkness, can that now show itself in a Fiend type character? Again, very interesting to explore, but one that I'm also very aware, I keep saying it, is quite sensitive. So it's I don't know that there's like the correct answer on this one. I think it just comes down to personal opinion, at how you feel about it. I think that's the answer. It's how you feel about it. And we don't know how Bo feels, how the family feels, how Triple H feels, what Rob Fee is thinking. We don't have access to that, so we don't know if it's going to return or not. But hence why we're doing this. What would you do? Erick said, only if Bo or Braun portray him. Yeah, I agree. Bo clearly the best choice. Braun would be cool. After Bo sheds the Uncle Howdy gimmick, it would be cool to maybe have the spirit of the Fiend haunt him until he gives in and lets the Fiend in. So Bo is then the vessel for the Fiend's essence. Michael said, I would limit a Fiend return to just special moments in the telling of the Uncle Howdy Bo story and not as a full character. I think it is only really reasonable in those moments. And outside of that, it feels wrong. Clearly, the connection of the Fiend to the story is already there. It seems natural to include the character at some points, but at least in just a very limited fashion. Okay, and I think that was our last one. Did we get any? No, we didn't. So there we go. I mean, look, we've got a couple of hours left. So close. It's running about 45% would bring him back. About 48, 49% wouldn't. 7% the difference maker. We'll see kind of how it finishes. But we've had over 200 votes. Some really interesting comments there. Really good comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed this video. And I think we could definitely touch on other questions, other topics. But this was a good one. Would you bring the Fiend back? And a lovely range there of opinions and thoughts. So a big thank you to everyone that took part in this. Appreciate your feedback. It's good to get it out there, as we said, and show kind of everyone's differing opinions. And I'll look to see what other questions we can ask and see what responses we'll get in the future. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now.